I used to assume that Hyper-V would be the best possible place to run Windows virtual machines. It's Microsoft's own hypervisor, built directly into Windows, deeply integrated into the OS, and specifically designed to run Windows guests. It's also free, kind of. So naturally, I thought a Windows 11 VM on Hyper-V should outperform almost anything else. But that's not what happened. First things first, I have a domain controller, overall working Active Directory deployment, and so on. Back in 2020 or so, my workplace needed some Windows magic, so I came in and configured Active Directory, configured domain, and other stuff that was crucial to that. I also assumed Hyper-V would not only work the fastest, but will also integrate the best with Windows domain environment. Active Directory with Hyper-V has some really cool features, if you have enough money for licenses, like spinning up dedicated virtual machines for remote desktop users. Initially, it seemed like that was exactly the case. I was running a Windows 10 guest that served as a remote desktop session host. I had two Hyper-V nodes, both with local storage but managed via hardware RAID controllers, so it's not like it was tragic. Everything just worked fine with that Windows 10 guest. After initial setup and deployment back then, I had little time to research extra features I wanted to add to the Hyper-V cluster, but we'll get to that later. Finally, this year, when I wanted to deploy a new VM with Windows 11, I found something surprising. My VM runs dramatically better on Proxmox than it does on Hyper-V. Not slightly better, not benchmark chart better, actually smoother, faster, and more responsive in day-to-day use. Initially, I had installed Windows 11 on Hyper-V and dismissed my coworkers when they said it's noticeably more sluggish. I assumed I ran into kind of problems I would dismiss as just virtualization or network overhead. But the symptoms of UI lag, inconsistent responsiveness, sluggish Windows animations, odd performance dips, and a general feeling that VM was never fully comfortable were too much to ignore. Even with integration services, dynamic memory options, virtual TPM support, secure boot, proper CPU allocation, NUMA enabled, and all the features you would expect for a modern Windows 11 guest, it still felt heavier than it should. Then I moved the same workload, the same VM to Proxmox. I literally just copied the VHDX drive and imported it into Proxmox with QEMU tools. Proxmox, which is based on KVM QEMU and commonly associated with Linux servers, containers and home labs, delivered a much better Windows experience than I expected. With virtual drivers, and even not necessarily that, because in drives I even forgot about them and just left the drives configured as SATA. Proper CPU type selection, ballooning disabled, and same storage network settings, Windows 11 felt closer to bare metal. Boot times improved, desktop responsiveness improved, application launches felt quicker, and the whole machine simply behaved better, without any tuning whatsoever. That raises an interesting question. How does Microsoft own hypervisor lose to a Debian-based virtualization platform when running Microsoft's own operating system? I will tell you right away, I haven't debugged it deeply, nor have I come to some magic conclusion. I haven't found a setting you can just switch and make everything just work. To be honest, I wonder whether any of you have had any similar experiences. I would love to hear more if you have any stories. It is surprisingly hard to find any articles or info on a topic like this. But anyway, my Hyper-V setup consists of two identical servers. They are a part of the AD domain, have two CPUs, 12 terabytes of storage, and 128 gigs of RAM. I have installed Hyper-V Core. It's free if you are only planning to use up to 2 VMs per server. That licensing is also kind of weird, but at the time, it didn't really bother me much. I was also interested in connecting my Hyper-V deployment to my fiber channel network. But the more I read about it, the more discouraged I got. Basically, in Hyper-V, the typical workflow for shared storage and fiber channel is to create a fiber channel adapter within the VM and expose the storage FC network directly to it. This means VM has to be aware of the FC, needs proper drivers, and what's more important, needs to be provisioned and installed with that in mind. That really took me by surprise because in Proxmox, virtual machines don't really... Whoops. Anyway. That really took me by surprise because in Proxmox, virtual machines don't really have any idea as to what they are running on. You can literally live migrate VM from local storage to storage array and then back to some NFS share. From what I've heard, VMware and HyperV have similar workflow when it comes to that, and I'm really not a fan. Also, live migration on HyperV didn't really work. Well, it kind of worked initially from what I remember, but then I started getting error messages, so I just kinda gave up on that and just scheduled downtimes whenever I had to move the VM. I thought it's a matter of no proper shared storage, but I already talked as to why FC in Hyper-V is weird. I also never really had time to research deep backup methods, where I could just backup whole VM and its storage, like I can in Proxmox with Proxmox Backup Server. I was interested in a method where Windows Guest doesn't have any additional software or in general any idea that it's being backed up, but can be done so from the hypervisor itself. So basically the hypervisor is responsible for backing up the VM configuration and its storage. Sadly, I found nothing interesting or just nothing that would not cost me a bag of money. So the Windows 11 thing was a cherry on top. As soon as I made the discovery, I migrated other Windows VM I had onto the Proxmox to test it, and it worked fine. The Windows 10 guest never gave me any performance issues, but still it's reassuring to know that Windows 10 doesn't dip in performance on Proxmox. Now I'll give it some time for testing, but I think I'll be switching my whole Windows deployment to Proxmox. If you have any idea on how to fix this performance issue or how to tackle the problems I described in general, I would love to hear more, even though my mind is pretty much made up. Remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy my workplace stories and shenanigans. That's it for now. This little guy is up next. I am already testing some other operating systems, and I already have, you may have seen that already, all of those filled with SaaS-grade drives that I borrowed from my data center. So we'll see how that goes, and until then, bye!